Greetings, pilots and passengers. Welcome to the next episode of the Dare to Talk podcast. Today I have the lovely Lindsay Banks, who is a intuitive and channeler. She works with spirit guides to provide messages. She also has worked with multidimensional beings, and she has received some really incredible messages and is well on her way on her spiritual awakening journey, and aims to help others to do the same. So thank you for speaking with me today, Lindsay.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you for having me, Emily.
So could you get a little bit into who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name's Lindsay Banks. I'm a channeler and intuitive at the minute. I find it really difficult, putting labels on who I am, because it depends on the day. So sometimes I'm a writer, sometimes I'm a YouTuber, sometimes I'm a channeler, sometimes I'm a healer, and just depending on the day, depends on the sort of work that I suppose I do. But overall, I suppose I'm very much guided by what I call upstairs. So depending on where they want me to be or what sort of work they want me to be doing is where I end up being drawn to, basically. So that's sort of the basics, if you like, about myself, if that sort of helps.
Yeah. So how did you get started on this journey, discovering that you have this ability to do channeling and in being able to be in touch with spirit? What got you on that journey?
So I suppose it started for me. I mean, when I was a kid, like I loved ghosts. And I remember reading a book called Voices in My Ear by Doris Stokes. And I remember being fascinated by the idea that this woman could speak to people who had died, or as I say now, who had passed. And I was like, oh my God, there's something more to life than this. And at the age of like 12, that was quite a massive revelation. And then I remember just going through probably a couple of years of just consuming every single book I could on spirit and the paranormal. And this was obviously before, the internet and YouTube. So I just remember going to my little local library and I'd read every single book on ghosts that I could, like within a few months. And then I suppose I sort of forgot about it, and it sort of went on the back burner. Until I was out in Hong Kong in 2002. I was studying there as part of my degree. And a friend of mine had gone off on a Reiki retreat, and he came back and he was like, oh, I've been laughing, I've been crying. And I was like, what? I was like, why would you go and do something and cry? Do you know what I mean? Because to me then, I was like, you don't do something like that, you don't cry on purpose. But yeah, so my friend Felix, he was like, let me show you, Lindsay, I've learned this thing called Reiki. So I remember him putting his hands on my back, and I just remember feeling this intense heat from his hands, and I was like, what's that? He was like, that's Reiki. And I was like, wow, it's really powerful. But at the time I was a student, I was loving my social life, I was out a lot, and the spiritual side again had no, like, I didn't need it, so I wasn't really looking for anything. And then I graduated from uni and got my first proper job working in a major retail store. And I'd never really experienced stress or anxiety until I started working there. I was doing like really long hours. The pressure was quite intense. And then I split up with my boyfriend and I was moving out, and there was just stuff after stuff was piling on top. And I thought, I need to go and get something done because this stress is not good for me. At the time, I was on like 7 cups of coffee a day, smoking like 20 cigarettes and more a day. And I was just living off like exhilaration, if you like, do you know what I mean, or adrenaline.
Yeah.
And I thought, and then I remembered this Reiki, so I thought, I'm going to go and have that. And I had it done, and it sort of opened up. This was in 2008. It just opened up this world for me into sort of psychics and mediums and crystals. And I just, again, got into that absorption mode of reading every single book that I could, and, going to mind, body and soul fairs and wanting to understand more about me at a soul level and about the universe and how it worked. So that sort of lasted a few years. And then in 2016, on my 36th birthday, one of my best friends passed away from cancer. And that just sort of hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, I hadn't really realized up until that point, like how emotionally numb I was, and how I was like, it felt a bit like Groundhog Day. I mean, I had children and I had a husband, but something still didn't feel right. So I started utilizing all these tools that I'd been learning over the previous 10 years, and started actually having to put them into action, like actually meditating, rather than just reading about meditation.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to actually do this now, because I know it's going to help me, but I don't know how to do it. But I just had to trust that I was sort of doing what I felt was the right thing. So I suppose that sort of started me back on this spiritual journey, or put me back on the path again.
So do you
Yeah.
think it was your best friend passing and experiencing death personally sort of got you on this journey to sort of trying to make contact with the other side and maybe help others understand it more?
Definitely. Like, I mean, my friend Lisa, who passed, she had a wicked sense of humor. And I said to her, I was like, I knew you'd pass on my birthday, so that I would always remember you, and celebrate your like my birthday and her passing day. But it was definitely like a catalyst, because it made me question, like, well, what am I doing with my life? Do you know what I mean? Who am I? And I think it's when there's like a tragedy or something that's quite big that comes up for you, that is often a catalyst for us going, right, who am I? And going back to the basics of who you are as a person. It's like, I felt as if I'd lost myself somewhere along the way. It was like as if I was trying to please everyone else. Like, I got a job because that's what everyone did. I went to uni because that's what everyone did. I got married because that's what everyone did. And it felt as if I was doing all this stuff because that's what we do, or that's what we did.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree in terms of, I think the world is so focused on to be successful, so to speak, or to live life, you have to just go do what everyone else does. And it doesn't really give you a chance to maybe think outside the box a little bit, or think about some of the other aspects of life and what life is really like. So through starting this journey from then, did your life completely change in a way from going down this route and stepping away from going through how things are supposed to be?
Yeah, so my life sort of snowballed after that. And it started by going for, like, I had a taster session done of something called access bars. And literally, I went into this little room, and the guy like just did this with my head, and then did something to my feet, then my head again, and said a few words, and I was like, what was that? I was like, I don't even know what he's just done. Do you know what I mean? But I trusted in the process. And then I went home, and I set my first boundary, because I was always, like I said, I'd always been a people pleaser. And it started this snowball. So I ended up, separating from my husband, starting my own business, moving out of the family home with the children. We ended up getting divorced. So the first 12 months, I would say, after I passed him, was very much just like a tower. If you had a tarot card, it would definitely be the tarot. It was like, you don't need this, you don't need this, you don't need this. Do you know what I mean? Let's start again, Lindsay. And it was when I moved into like my new place with the kids, and I was like, right, time to learn who I am, what I'm about, start the healing process, and really sort of start to get back in tune with who I was as a person. And so initially I didn't feel as if, like, I never thought that I would go into mediumship work. I used to go and see mediums, and I would go to the spiritualist church just to find out that, I was doing the right thing and getting that reassurance. And I already believed in mediums. I believed that they could speak to spirits. I already had that belief, but I never really felt that was my calling.
So when you started getting into mediumship, was you quite surprised at some of the messages you were receiving, and that you were able to do it yourself?
Yeah, I got such a shock, Emily, because it was like I was sat in this circle, right, at the spiritualist church, and I'd gone along with a friend because he'd been told that this was his path and this was his journey. So, you know, I'm an extrovert, I'm very outgoing and I'm very chatty and sociable. And so I said to him, I'll come along with you for support. So I sat next to him and we got led into this meditation. And I was like, this is really strange. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm feeling. And I very much just sort of opened up. You know, I didn't hold anything back. I was just like, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm feeling. And I just went, can anyone take that? Thinking, oh my God, it's going to be a load of pants. But the guy running away, I know who you're talking about. I was like, really? He said, yeah. He says, it's a friend of mine, you know, and it's a son, and this is how he passed. And he says, you've got everything, you know, exactly right. And I was like, oh my God. So I kept going back to the church just to gain some more confidence within myself that it wasn't a fluke, do you know what I mean? And that it wasn't a one-off. And then I think I've shared this with you before, we did some channeled writing. And it started off going, thou art, thou art. And I'm like, thou art? Who speaks like that anymore? Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I ended up doing this channel writing. And it was actually William Shakespeare who came through. And I can't remember the exact message now, but he just said to me as well, he was like, you know, all these photos and all these paintings, Lindsay, that people did of me make me out to be so serious, but I had such a sense of humour and I was such a laugh and I was always laughing. And I was just like, I can't believe I'm doing a William Shakespeare.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing there is I think people forget that, like, those who sort of believe in spirit, I think some people forget that the people we talk to were exactly like us. I think they take it a bit too seriously, when actually they were exactly like us. I mean, they still are, and they still have like such a sense of humour, and that's how they'd like to be remembered.
Exactly.
When you started, did you expect that you would channel someone like William Shakespeare?
No, but the thing is though, like, is that I didn't even know what channeling was then. So I knew mediums, you know, I'd seen mediums speaking, and I knew what psychics were, and you know, I sort of knew the difference between a psychic and a medium, but not really. But the whole channeling thing was something that was like I'd never heard of, I'd never seen, and it just felt like so far out of my remit, and I was just like, you know, I just didn't even know what a channeler was. And even I think when, like, a few months later, I came across what's her name now, Braca Goldsmith on YouTube. She channels the Pleiadians. And then I'd read the book Bringers of the Dawn by Barbara Marciniak, and she was a channeler. And then I came across Lee Harris, who was a channeler. So within the space of about 3 weeks, I found 3 different channelers. And I was like, oh, so this is what a channeler is, and this is what a channeler does. And maybe that's actually what I am, or what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? It felt like the next level.
Do you think maybe it was sort of more than a coincidence and put you on that path of this is what you're actually meant to do now?
Yeah.
Because that's what it sounds like that. So considering, you know, you started channeling and then all of a sudden you started, you know, looking at these channelers and then you were like, right.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, I remember being in London. I'd gone to the Mind, Body and Soul fair down there. And again, a lady had done some random healing on me. And she said afterwards, she said, oh, you know, what did you get? And I said, I'm a conduit. I says, what's a conduit? I says, I don't even know what the word means. And she was like, it's like a channeler. And I was like, oh, right, okay. And, you know, like, I've been told different things. And what makes me laugh the most is, so with the mediumship, it feels different, you know, when it's spirits coming through. Like you said, you know, they've got their own personality, and, you know, I can see images. They often like me to sing, so they often bring me songs, and I'm like, I'm doing my recordings, and I'm like, I do apologize for my singing voice, but they want me to give you this song, and then I start singing a little bit to them. But then, yeah, with the channeling, they make me say words, and I'm like, I don't even know what this word means, but I have to say it and share it. So
with channeling, you hit on there about how you've channeled Pleiadians before, and we've spoke about this briefly before on your channel. So it's a recent thing, isn't it? So when did this first come through? When did Pleiadians first start getting in touch with you?
So when I read the Bringers of the Dawn book a couple of years ago, it made me realise that I had inadvertently been channeling the Pleiadians, because a lot of the messages in there, as I was reading this book, I just kept going, oh my God, I've said that. Oh my God, I know that, you know, from like when I was 18, and I said, you know, we were put here as part of an experiment. And then I started, for whatever reason, I started telling people, you need to eradicate the word should from your vocabulary, because that indicates blame and it allows you to feel guilt. Whereas if you stop saying it, it gets rid of the guilt. And so, yeah, I forgot what the question was.
It was about sort of when you first started channeling Pleiadians, and you know, you first.
So yeah, sorry. So
it's all right.
So yeah, I was just like, boom, just gone. So I started writing my book in 2018, and what I started doing was, if I was getting a bit stuck or a bit of writer's block, I would go outside and I would just say the question. I'd be like, well, what do you want me to write? And the messages coming through were about love and about peace, and very much like filled with hope, if you like. And I just presumed at the time, I just thought, it's my spirit guides. You know, I didn't know who I was actually communicating with, but I just knew that it was these beings who were very much full of love for the collective. And then it was only when I was doing some drawing. I was sharing this actually in another interview the other day. I did a drawing, and it was like a little blue face with a pair of eyes and a nose, and I'd coloured it in whilst my children were colouring in. And this being just said, oh, hi, I just wrote it, just said, hi, I'm Al-Kael. I'm a Pleiadian, I'm your Pleiadian guide, and I'm going to be working with you and doing some channeling with you. And I was like, so that's who's been sharing these messages, you know? Because sometimes, like, they're not always like, my feeling is, and I don't know if this is others' experience, because there's not many that you meet who admit to speaking with aliens or higher beings or multidimensional beings, or whatever you want to call them. But it's been a very gradual process, and because I think if all of a sudden, for me, like there was someone in front of me who was like of a different race, not different race, but different origin, if you like, I would have probably got a shock. You know, it's like if you suddenly turned around and ET was in your kitchen, you might freak out a little bit, mightn't you?
Yeah.
So I think it's been very much like a gradual process that they've been sort of coming in to work sort of through me.
What sort of messages have you received from them?
So initially, like I said, there was a lot of around love and around peace, etc. And then last year, a lot of the channelings actually predicted what was going to happen this year. So they talked about the patriarchal system collapsing, and they talked about the fall of the world as it is. And at the time, I was like, how is this going to happen? Like, how on earth is the patriarchal system going to collapse? And now it's like, see how it's going to collapse. So yeah, and then some of it has been just about just messages of inspiration, really, you know, and support as well. So they've been incredibly like grateful this year for the work that many light workers have been doing, many healers, many empaths, you know, and just saying, you know, we really appreciate the work that you guys are doing on planet Earth, and you know, we're nearby, and they've definitely been getting like closer over this last year. But yeah, they're sort of the main ones. And I think I shared as well with you before was, you know, saying that they told me that I was very good at normalizing this, like the multidimensional beings, and acting as a bridge between this world and theirs, and helping others to understand it a bit more as well.
Yeah, I mean, some of the things you hit on there were things that I've received, especially the message about the bridge between humans and aliens, that had come through to me and my dad before, and we spoke about that before, but I think that is like one of the most important things that these multidimensional beings, aliens, whatever you want to call them, are hoping to achieve through like communicating with light workers and mediums and all the, you know, all of these people around the world. And I think it's really intriguing to sort of hear the same messages come through, especially at the moment. Similar things are coming through around this point. I mean, some people are suggesting it's because there is like a mass awakening going on. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think I think the veil has sort of become thinner, if you like, this year as this year has gone on, and because people haven't been so entrenched, if you like, in the materialistic world or the 3D world, you know, as it's known, that they're more open to, you know, the fact that there's something else out there. And my feeling is that it's like when you start doing mediumistic work, or when you start opening the channel, if you like, to be able to speak with spirits or to communicate with spirits, and then you open another channel and it's like, well, I'm going to communicate with angels now, and then you open another channel, you know, and it's like you start opening one channel and it's as if, like, the way I always describe it, it's like you're a lighthouse. You've got this light on top of your head, and it's like the angels can see you want to communicate. You know, these multidimensional beings are like, a light switched on, let's go. Do you know what I mean? And they come through, whether it's through channeling, through writing, whether it's through dreams. You know, a lady that is in my Facebook group, she tagged me the other day because she was like, oh my God, Lindsay, I've just been channeling Joan of Arc. Do you know what I mean? And that's someone who'd come through to me as well. And I was just like, oh my God, that's awesome. What has she said to you? Do you know what I mean? But it was very, like you said, it was such a similar message. It was to do with having courage, you know, and being fearless and standing up in your own truth and speaking your truth. So the messages that are coming through are definitely ones of courage. And I suppose if there's, you know, if someone's like, but how do I start to speak to multidimensional beings? Do you know what I mean? My advice would be meditate and just be open to receiving whatever messages like come through for you.
Yeah, and I think as well, actively ask for it as well. What
Yeah.
I noticed is, in terms of alien communication or guides, and it applies to any form of communication, be it like astral projection and all that sort of thing, channeling, automatic writing, is to just ask ahead of time. And usually the people you ask for do come through, or you essentially just get what you ask for, really. I think part of that is the whole law of attraction thing as well, which is a big thing. And I think a lot of people need to start realizing that it's real, and they have like an energy within them that they can harness to go after the things that they want in life, and especially in terms of spiritual awakening journey, developing themselves spiritually. You touched on there that some you were speaking to had said they channeled Joan of Arc, and you had too. And I know that isn't one of the isn't just one of the influential people you've channeled before, because you've channeled the likes of John Lennon. So yeah. What did John Lennon have to say to you?
Oh, so it you know, when things just happen, right, like day after day. So I'd had a conversation with a friend of mine who has spoken with the spirit of John Lennon before, and we'd had a conversation about John Lennon, and then he just appeared. So spirits tend to come through when I'm either in the shower doing yoga. So he was just there when I was in the shower, and I was like, oh my God, I felt like a giddy teenager, Emily, honestly. I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting, right? And I thought, normally when someone comes through, I sit down, I go, right, what do you want me to write? And I take down their story. But with him, I was like straight on record. I was like, oh my God, you're not going to believe this, but I've got John Lennon in my room with me. Let's chat. Do you know what I mean? So what I did is I just sat there and I just said, right, John Lennon, John, I was like, what do you want me to share with the collective? And I can't even remember exactly what he said now because I was in such a state of excitement. But it was very much around, again, he said that he was coming in and his love, if you like, as he's been sharing it, he's been working really hard with the collective, and he wanted his song to go to #1. He wanted to have a Christmas #1 again, and I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. So, and it's funny because initially I thought, oh, I wonder if it's going to be Imagine, but then the other day I was watching because I don't really know many of his songs either, but I was watching the War Is Over song and I thought, that's it. War is over. That's, it's the spiritual war. The spiritual war is over. The lights beat in the dark. Yeah. And it's like, that's what I feel is the song that he would want to be #1. But yeah, and then I can't remember if it was that morning or the morning after, I'd gone on Canva to create something and there was a John Lennon quote there. And then I was seeing 22. I saw 20. I was doing day 22 of yoga the following day. There was a 22% on my battery when I looked at my phone. Went out Christmas shopping, came back, and there's this beautiful white feather on the back of my car boot. So I took a photo of it, posted on Instagram, and my friend was like, you do know, Lindsay, that John Lennon's son set up a foundation called the White Feather Foundation. I was like, oh my God. I was like, my mind has just been blown. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, I just didn't realise that.
So do you think these were all signs from John to you to say he's, with you and watching over you?
Yeah, definitely. And, like you said, so he sort of like won in a string of different famous, influential people over the summer who've come through. But he was definitely, I would say, the one whose energy felt the lightest, who's made me and feel just like completely like giddy, if you like, and overwhelmed. Princess Diana came through and she had this beautiful green sparkly diamond energy, which was beautiful. But yeah, he's definitely like on a high vibration, shall we say.
Yeah. You mentioned Princess Diana. What did she have to say to you?
So she basically mentioned about her passing, and she said that she knew too much, which was all she really said about the reason that she'd passed. She mentioned something. She'd mentioned something about both William and Harry removing their titles, and I can't remember if this is before Harry went off to Canada. Or after, I can't remember, but she said they're both going to be both going to remove the titles and they're going to be stepping away from the royal family, but they're both going to be involved in like humanitarian projects, like she was as well. So she shared that with me as well. But on the other thing she shared was around the media. And she said, she says, when I first went into the royal family, she said, I didn't really know what the media was and I didn't know how to use it. And she says, it's worth, what did she say? She said, if you can use the media to your advantage, she says, then I would do so.
As in, do you think she meant the mainstream media or?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because obviously at the moment, the mainstream media, a lot of people would say is very much against the people, but maybe she meant it is in a way of eventually the media will be in the people's hands.
Yeah, and I think I shared my story with a certain national newspaper who were really like, the lady was like, yeah, the journalist was like, yeah, it's really exciting, we're going to put this in the paper, and when it came to it, they didn't put my story in because I felt it was too close to the bone, and I think they may be worried about who would read it, so they didn't publish it. But I feel as if, maybe more in terms of, the mainstream media, like when people read it, that don't really believe in it, some of the stuff in there seems crazy. So my feeling is that, like, you know what, if someone wants to speak to someone about aliens, you know, I can speak to them about aliens, and people might read it and go, God, that lady's crazy. But there might be a percentage of people who actually read it and go, you know what, I believe in them as well. She said she does, so I do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that's what Sort of meant. It was about sort of like being able to share your truth, so the journalists get a story which to some people might seem crazy, but to those who know, it doesn't.
Do you think more and more people are going to start realizing that it's not crazy?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's definitely becoming more mainstream, you know. I mean, there's so many groups now, like on Facebook and on the internet, you know, talking about UFOs, and not just even, you know, years ago it might have been like aliens were all classified as one group, but now it's like, I met a lady in the street the other day who just said to me, because I said, oh, you know, I says I believe I'm of Pleiadian origin, and she went, oh, I'm Arcturian. And I was like, can you imagine having this conversation even 2 years ago? So now, you know, there's different groups which are actually tailored to different types of multidimensional beings as well, which we didn't really have in our awareness, you know, however many long ago. It wasn't as mainstream. And even though I'm not a massive fan of Facebook, what it has done is it's highlighted the fact that there are other beings out there, you know, and that we are all from a specific galaxy or planet, etc.
So, do you know where your origins are from?
Yes. So I had an Akashic record reading done when I first started getting into this about 12 years ago. And the guy said to me that I was from a place called Nihar, right? And I remember writing it down. And then last year I was watching a Gaia channel, and there was a channeler on there called Rob Gaultier. And he went into meditation or trance, and he started channeling, and he talked about this Nihar, and I was like, oh my God, that's me, that's where I'm from. And I got so excited. So then I went on the internet and I'm like, right, where's all my Nihar people? Do you know what I mean? And I think it was, I can't remember if it was spelled Nwehar or Nihal, but there's not many of us. But from what like I sort of tried to gather was that basically something had happened in our space, so we ended up moving over to the Pleiadian galaxy or the Pleiadian system. So yeah, so that's where I'm from.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear. I, in one of my spiritual development sessions, we've heard a similar sort of story from the Greys, who are very much closely working with the Syrians at the moment. And the Syrians and the Pleiadians have helped the Greys in the past, because the Greys used to live, well, it was not just the Greys, but the Martians as well. The Martians on Mars and another planet, but specifically Mars, were targeted, and their whole the whole of Mars started becoming a place where it became inhabitable. They couldn't live there anymore. The Syrians and the Pleiadians basically put them in like, you know, cryo storage and what have you, and took them to Earth and has put them underground. So when you said about how you got forced off where you were originally from, that seems to be sort of like a common theme running across. Do you think maybe, because I was speaking with someone the other day who was saying that the cabal or the elites on Earth have been sort of doing what they're doing on Earth throughout many, many, many galaxies for thousands of years, likely. Do you think they could be responsible for what's been seen with Nihar and other planets?
Oh, definitely, yeah. So I think, you know, they've done it out there on other smaller planets. So my film was where I was from. There wasn't many of us, do you know what I mean? So I feel as if they started with small pickings to see what would the impact be. Do you know what I mean? How would the other beings respond if they just did this or if they just did that? And interestingly, I did some channeling a while ago, where I was told about a lifetime in Lemuria that I had. And they said that, you know, in terms of when it was first established, there was peace. amongst the people. They said the women respected the men respected the women. There was no gender inequality, you know, there was nothing, everything was just peaceful, it was lovely. But they said it was then it was infiltrated by beings from another galaxy. So the Pleiadians had set up this beautiful system on Earth, if you like. This is what they told me. But then there was a being came down, and what they told me is it started whispering in the men's ears, and it started creating jealousy and envy and anger, and then it just I ended up seeing myself killed in Maria. But that was what I was given. So I have no doubt that these reptilians or other beings started off with small pickings and then thought, you know what, we're going to do Earth. Let's do Earth. So
do you, because this is all essentially a physical and spiritual awakening, which a lot of people are noticing, but also saying it's sort of coming to a head now. Do you think it will all be resolved very soon?
I think it already has been up there. I think they've already sorted everything out in terms of those who aren't meant to be on this planet, I feel, have been taken away. But I feel what we're seeing playing out now on Earth is the remnants, if you like. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like there is like still some work to do in terms of raising the vibration of the planet and raising our consciousness. But I feel as if out there things have been sorted. That's the feeling that I get.
Yeah, and a lot of people are sort of saying the 21st of December is a really significant date, especially in terms of spiritual awakening and sort of things wrapping up or being exposed, so to speak. So do you know much about the 21st of December and what's going on there?
Yeah, so I did a really fascinating interview with a guy called Stephen Strong. So basically I'd been guided to his story twice in 2 days, and I was like, I need to speak to this man. So he shared the prophecies he'd been sort of told by Aboriginal elders. But I feel it's a strange one because yes, I feel like the 21st of December is an important date in terms of humanity having raised their vibration and their consciousness. However, I also feel that it's a lesson in expectations, because I feel like there are some people who are like, they're going to wake up on the 22nd and be like, right, this is it. Life's so different. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's more the inner stuff. So it's as if like the inner work has reached its peak, I would say. That's my feeling. It's like the inner work we've all done, that's the peak bit. But the external effects and the external events may not hit us until a bit later on. So I just want to set the expectation that, you know, I don't feel like we're going to wake up on the 22nd and all these people that maybe aren't aware of it are suddenly going to be aware of it, you know, and we're not going to all be out hugging in the streets, but there will be a shift.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I've seen a lot of people tweeting about it, posting about it, the 21st. Some are saying that it's an alien technology is going to be activated, or others have hinted at maybe a technology being turned off that was limiting us. Lots of different things, but like you said, I think a lot of people are expecting that whatever happens on the 21st, because there's also that the close alignment between Jupiter and Saturn, yes, that is going to be very significant anyway, and the energies will be crazy because of that. But I think a lot of people are expecting that they're going to wake up and magically be able to fly around and, you know, do all these crazy things that defy science. And I just think it's going to be one of those days where the energies will shift, and it'll be more of, like you said, an inner workings and a chance for people to reflect on themselves and maybe look at the world a little differently. In terms of the world and coming up to the new year, have you received any messages about things that are going to be happening in the new year?
No, not specifically. I mean, someone asked on Facebook the other day about what next year is going to be like. And I described I said I feel as if it's going to be a bit like having a hangover, where there's going to be this like sort of like dull ache. It's, you know, it's not going to last forever, you know, but it's going to be there for a short period of time. So I feel like we're still going to see some repercussions coming up in January, February. I've been advising friends to not invest in houses or invest in the property market, because that's going to crash. And they'd be better. I'm saying to people, I'm like, you're better off investing in land. Buy some land, because there's loads of people who want to, you know, leave the houses and get land. So, you know, that's what I can say. And also around communities as well. So my feeling is, you know, that whether it's like a membership group online or whether it's like a community of people in a neighborhood, I feel like community is going to be even more important next year. And I feel like with that, if people have like healing work, say, to do around something like vulnerability, you know, I feel like we're gonna have to be relying on each other quite a lot for things, and having to be going to like our neighbors and saying, you know, can I get this, or do you have this, or, you know, could you help me with this, which is maybe what we haven't necessarily had to maybe do so much in the last however many years. So yeah, they're sort of like my main feelings. I still feel Trump's coming back. You know, I still feel
I definitely think that part of what's going on at the moment is very much tied to the US elections and all of that sort of thing, and keep trying to keep Trump out and all that sort of thing. But it sounds like more of like a return to living off the land from what you said there.
Yeah. So, and you know, so I'm part of like an off-grid community, and part of like another group as well. But yeah, my feeling is as well, I mean, like, you know, at the minute there's lots of talk about Brexit and obviously the corona word in the news, but like I went for a walk yesterday and like my local river has flooded so badly. It's the worst I've ever seen it, but there's nothing in the news about it. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, why are we not talking about the fact that there's flooding here? But like I was shown in a vision that I was on a piece of land. I had my wellbeing centre, and then there was like, say, 6 or 7 shepherd huts around. There was a fire, and you know, I feel as like I've said for a few years now that, you know, I feel as if we need to go back to those tribal ways of living, where decisions are made on a small local scale. Because like I never really got the whole Brussels thing, and why would someone in Brussels be able to make a decision about what's happening in my village? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, it's just not like conducive to the way people live. So it's about going more back to smaller spaces, making decisions what's best for them. So I saw something the other day about there was an MP and he was like, oh, so I'm gonna apply to be a mayor. And I was like, with all due respect, if you haven't helped us as being an MP, what makes you think you're good quality for a mayor? You know, how, like, you can't do that. Yeah. So all these MPs who've been quiet and who haven't stood up and who haven't been supporting us, how dare they think that they can then just be like, oh, I'm going to be mayor now? No, you're not. We want someone who's been supporting others, you know, and who's willing to actually stand up for people. Sorry, I'm going on a political rant now.
I mean, I completely agree with you. I think there's a lot of MPs who have stayed not just silent throughout the whole Brexit situation, but the pandemic situation, especially in regards to lockdowns. A lot of them have, you know, flip-flopped saying, oh yeah, we shouldn't be going into lockdown, but then when it comes to the vote, they vote for it. So I think there is a lot less trust in the government and representatives now, and a lot of people are seeing that. You touched on there that you are a member of not only an off-grid community, but another group, and that group is Wake Up Yorkshire. I know, because we're in the same group.
Yeah. I call it the resistance.
Yeah. So how did you get into that group?
So I suppose for me, at the beginning of lockdown, it was like I knew something wasn't right. Yeah. So I've worked on my intuition over the years, and I knew that what we were being told didn't sit right. Okay. So I ended up, watching a few documentaries and going down the rabbit hole, and then quickly coming back out and going, right, I have that in my awareness. I watched a really good one by a Dutch lady, which was The Fall of the Cabal. And that sort of made sense. And I was like, right, I understand that. And then I ended up joining a group on Facebook called Freedom for the Children. And for me, I was like, I couldn't sit at home knowing what I knew about the satanic abuse and missing children. And bizarrely or not, like the year before, I remember looking at how many children had gone missing. I was like, how can this many children go missing in the UK or in America? I was like, I don't get, where are all these children going? And then when I found out, I was like, right, makes sense now. So I joined this group, and I was like, they basically had done a protest in London, and they were looking for people to do these, they called them peaceful protests across different cities. So initially I was like, right, I'm going to go to Leeds. I'll go to Leeds. And then I got a message from upstairs going, no, you're not going to Leeds, Lindsay, you're going to do it in York. And I was like, really? And sometimes I have resistance to what the universe tells me, because I'm just like, fucking hell, I'm like, it was out of my comfort zone. I never attended a protest in my life. Do you know what I mean? I've never been involved in activism or anything like that. So I messaged my friend. I was like, right, we're being told to do this in York. So we ended up doing a walk. It was a really peaceful walk through the city centre. We did a meditation at the end, and basically a chap that I'd met through the Spiritualist Church was at that walk. And he said to me afterwards, he says, right, you've inspired me, Lindsay, I'm going to do something. And the next week he was in town with a loudspeaker telling everyone what he knew. And sort of from there, he was then like, right, Lindsay, I'm going here. Do you want to come? I was like, oh, yeah, I'll come and meet other people, that are like-minded. And that's sort of like how the group's grown, really. It's just sort of people coming together who don't want to be involved in what's going on and who aren't complicit. Not complicit, but yeah, not complicit maybe. So now it feels like, excuse me, like the focus is more on, right, how can we support the community? How can we support people with mental health through coronavirus? How can we support people in terms of food? How can we support, so it's sort of, it started with us sort of like just not being happy, but just knowing, I suppose, deep within that this isn't right, and then coming together. But now it's like, right, as a group, how can we help others who are just starting to come to this realization as well, and either giving them space to, to talk, or like meditate through meditations, and yeah, just supporting people basically who are also coming to that realization.
Yeah, I definitely think it is important for groups like this to exist, especially because I think it's a point now where you can't sort of tell people you shouldn't wear a mask, or you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, because it's difficult to get that across. Whereas I think what really drew me to the group was more of the focus on well-being and positivity, which I think is more important now than ever before. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for and searching for.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things, and I can't remember whether someone mentioned this, but I think one of the biggest things that people are looking for now is hope that there's some light at the end of this tunnel, hope that they're going to get through it. And my feeling is that the way to get through this is to find other like-minded individuals who can see that light at the end of the tunnel, and who know that, we are going to get through this. Yeah, it might feel tough, there might be a change in the way that, we have to grow our own food, for example. We may have to start working with the land more, we may have to do this, but ultimately there is a way for us to live on this earth. and to not feel stressed and to not feel anxious. Do you know what I mean? It might feel uncomfortable at first, but when there's more of us doing that, that's primarily, I feel, one of the reasons that the group exists. It's to bring hope to others.
Yeah, and just to touch on, you have your own YouTube channel, which I'll include down below, and you've run a series called The Spiritual Journey, where you've interviewed people. What made you start that series?
So again, it was upstairs who told me I needed to start a podcast. And at the time, I didn't really have the technical, well, I say I didn't have the technical know-how. I didn't feel I had the technical know-how. So I did my first interview and it took me 8 hours to edit. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do this, guys. So then I was guided to do a YouTube channel. So I thought, right, I can do this, So with my guests, I always say to them, I'm not editing it. It's literally, I press record, we do the video, and that's it. Because I don't have technical skills, I don't have a massive team of people to edit all my videos and make it all pretty. But for me, it's more about the content. And what I wanted to share with people in terms of the spiritual journey was that I didn't want people to think, oh, well, it's all right for Lindsay, she's gone through her journey and she's fine and she's this, that, and the other. I wanted people to see that there were others who had started their awakening and had gone through their journey, and that they're now helping others on theirs through various healing modalities. So also drawing attention to the fact that there isn't a single path to get from here to wherever the end is of our spiritual journey. Some people have come through the healing path through addiction, some people have come through death, some people have come to the journey through just sheer curiosity. So there's different ways that people start their spiritual journey. But then there's various healing modalities that can help people, whilst they're on it. So if you're feeling stressed or anxious, try Kundalini yoga, or go for a Reiki session, or try, Rahani healing, or get a soul plan, depending on what you need. There are so many awesome healers and therapists out there. And I wanted to give them a voice as well. I was like, come and speak to me about your journey. And, I'm still looking for guests. So if anyone wants to, share theirs, then they're more than welcome. So that's how it basically started. And I love it. I really genuinely love chatting with people about their story. I find it so inspiring, that what other people are doing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel the same way. I think hearing from other people, there's so much more to learn from others than, just going out and Googling stuff, and just, you can only learn so much by yourself. You have to learn from others, and I think that's the best way. And obviously people are interested in hearing from other people.
Yeah, and I think, sometimes there's this it is resistance, about oh my god, do I really want to start this? Do you know what I mean? And it, like I said, if even at the beginning of a spiritual journey, it can feel uncomfortable because you're shedding layers of stuff, that you've been carrying around with you for way too long. But it does get easier, and you learn which tools can help you. So when challenges arise or when stress arises, you've got tools that you can be like, actually, I'm starting to feel a bit stressed now, right? Let's do some deep breathing. Let's have a salt bath. Let's, stick some crystals on me. Let's do whatever it is that makes you feel better.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have a message that you'd like to get across?
What, for the collective?
For anything, just now, what is a message? If you could say anything right now to people, what would it be?
Oh, I've got a really nice one. So obviously coming up to the Christmas season, yeah, and what the words I was just given was to find joy in your hearts. Okay, so Christmas is an ideal time to bring out that inner child, yeah, to sing, to dance, to act silly, to just get really childlike and really enjoy this Christmas period. Please, I just feel like I want to say that don't be going into Christmas thinking, what the hell's going to happen after this? What's next? Yeah. Just be really mindful. Enjoy Christmas for what it is. Enjoy the time that you have with your family, with your friends, etc. yeah, just act childlike. Every day is a new day. Just don't switch on the news over Christmas. Do not watch the BBC. Do not watch anything.
Yeah.
Just really, really be present and really enjoy the time that you have without thinking about the external just for a short while.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that message. I mean, my Christmas trees was put up even just before the start of November, and I mean, we've been so focused on Christmas, and I think that's what people should be doing, because I mean, if it could be Christmas every day, I would happily go with that.
I know. I was thinking as well the other day, because I've been walking around my village, when it's dark, about 4 o'clock-ish, and I just think it's so nice to see Christmas lights on. So my feeling is we keep our Christmas lights on all through January.
Definitely, that should be I mean, if that was a national thing, maybe people should get on with that, because
let's make it national, Emily.
Yeah, let's do it. Anyway, yeah. So closing up, if people watching this want to get in touch with you, want to find more about you, how can they find you?
So there's various places. I'm in a lot of places, but the best place to start would be going to my website, which is lindsaybanks.uk. I'm on YouTube, as you've already mentioned, Instagram and Twitter is lindsaybanks111, and I also have a membership group called The Awakening Collective as well.
Awesome. All of those things will be linked down below in the description, so if anyone wants to get in touch with you, they're more than welcome. I definitely recommend you subscribe to her channel, because she posts some really wonderful, uplifting videos, and her spiritual journey series is, it's amazing to hear from all these wonderful people. And Lindsay really is just having a huge positive impact on this world with the messages that you put out and the messages you get from spirit. So thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for speaking with me today. It's been wonderful, as always, to speak with you, and I'll no doubt be speaking to you again at some point.
Thank you very much, Emily.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Lindsay Banks today for coming on to speak with me on the Dare to Talk podcast. She is a wonderful and amazing. Some of the messages she has received are absolutely amazing, and she really wants to have a positive impact on the world, and she's doing it. All you have to do is go take a look at her YouTube channel and see what she's doing, and please do that. Make sure you subscribe to her channel. All of the links are down in the description below on how you can get in touch with her. As I've mentioned in this video, I'd like to say that if you'd like to support the channel, please subscribe to Dare to Fly today and get ready to take flight. Turn on notifications so you get notified every time I upload a video. Like and share this video with others. If you'd like to support the channel even further, you can make a one-off donation to my Ko-fi page, which will go towards buying me some rocket fuel for my ship. Or you can also make a donation via my PayPal, and links to both of those will be down in the description box below. Do you want to be a guest on my podcast? Then come along, get in touch with me. Anyone is welcome to come onto the podcast and chat. You can leave a message down below in the comments. You can get in touch with me on Twitter. My handle is @daretofly777. Or you can also send me an email, and I'll include that on screen now and also down below. So please do get in touch. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to chat to you. Hope you all have a wonderful, blessed day wherever you are in the world. Stay true, stay awake, stay blessed, and as always, fly high, fear less.